In only 3 days, my 16-year-old son has done the majority of the work Barra swapping this 1988 EA Falcon S with an engine from a 2008 BF Falcon. Let me go through what was involved. Quick overview of the car. So these cars brand new were around $23,000. They came in 3 different options. One was the 3-speed, 3.9 litre centerfire injection. There was another 3.2 litre variant, which is super rare. Also, the transmission options were a 3-speed automatic or the 5-speed manual. There was also a 3.9 litre multi-point option, which cost extra, and that gave the engine 6 injectors instead of 2 going through that carby looking thing. 139 kilowatt for the multi-point, 120 kilowatt for the centerfire injection, which is what mine is. The 3-speed automatic. It definitely throws you back into the seat. Not. This car's nearly 37 years old, and when I got it, it was in super rough shape. Go back to previous episodes where you see me give the car a full exterior makeover, and then in the other episodes we give it a full interior makeover where we pull out all the carpet and the seats, and high pressure wash everything, put it back in. We ended up getting the car on the road on club registration in Victoria. I forgot to mention, we only bought this car for a measly $500 back at the start of COVID. So the poor car's been sitting off the road for around 6 months at my house because the transmission started slipping quite aggressively to the point where I thought I was just going to be left stranded somewhere. You could very lightly accelerate and the revs will just keep going. I tried to do a transmission additive for non-slip, topped up the oil, but still the same thing. Pretty common on these old 3-speed transmissions. Also, the motor started developing pretty serious leak from the Welsh plugs, as you can see here. And having this Barra engine sitting around from a 2008 BF that we wrecked about 4 years ago, low kilometer, only 155,000, the engine was just sitting there. It's the perfect option to just throw in. As we're keeping this car super low budget, stay tuned for future episodes where we go over how much everything costs to do this for us. We're doing it on a budget, but we want to do it nice. So we sourced this 2008 BF Falcon from Mannheim Auctions. They're located, I think, all over Australia. Check them out. Mannheim, please collab. Right, I often jump on Mannheim just to have a look and see what's there in the salvage section. You can buy smash cars for parts or to get back on the road if you are eager enough. And we picked up this BF for around 1,200 bucks. Been hit in the front. So my idea was to take the running gear and conversion parts out of the car that we need, such as the loom, engine and trans obviously. We kept the K-frame, sold off heaps of parts from the car, wheels, doors, tires, interior, to make probably more than our money back. It was quite a bit of labor, but it was a good way to get the parts we need for minimal money or even make some money. So just going over all the parts we need to do this conversion. So obviously the engine and trans, as I've already said. We've picked up a conversion loom. So one of the most difficult parts about doing this conversion in the EA is getting the wiring correct. And there's an amazing guy named Bill Hooton, who a lot of you guys know, and he is the go-to guy, one of the most well-known in Victoria for making amazing conversion looms. I'm quite lucky because I've done episodes on this car in the past. Some of you guys message me and talk about the car, and one guy in particular, Sonny from Ford Performance Salvage, reached out to me and said, hey, if you ever want a conversion loom for BF and ZF turbo into an EA Falcon, I've got one sitting here. And I said, immediately hold it for me because I'm doing it. So I bought that loom off him for around 500 bucks. This is an essential part of making this conversion a lot easier because it basically plugs into the factory EA loom, marries up to the BF computer. It has 3 cables which run inside the car for the OBD port, the electronic pedal, because if you didn't know, the newer Falcons run a electronic accelerator pedal, which is also called a throttle position sensor, TPS for short, and that's controlled by the computer. So a new pedal has to be mounted and cables run to it. The older style in the EAs are cables, so you actually physically push the pedal and it pulls a cord, which then opens up something. I don't know exactly how it works. All I know is that the loom saves a whole lot of work. If you want to try and do all the wiring yourself, this will be an absolute headache of a conversion if you don't know what you're doing. We also got the Barra module. So I believe this allows the newer Falcon computer to communicate with the older EA instrument cluster, such as revs, volts, speed, and stuff like that. The beauty of it is because we're running a ZF transmission in this car, which is from a 2014 FG Falcon that we're going to marry up to the 2008 engine. We've opted for the more premium version of the Canberra, which has a display unit on it that will tell you transmission temperature and what gear you're in. And it's a little tiny screen that we're going to mount in one of the blank panels on the dash. So when we're Triptronic shifting through the gears, you can see onto the dash which gear we're in, because the cluster on the EA won't show that. Whereas on the Falcons, it has it on the actual cluster. So we're gonna run the original cluster on the EA. The other thing we need is a custom gearbox cross member. So we're going from a 3-speed to a 6-speed. We are doubling our gears. So we've ordered the EB to ED gearbox cross member from Tough Mounts. It says it suits EA Series 2. Mine's the EA Series 1. I think it's the closest thing I'm gonna get. I hope it works. I haven't even tried it yet. We may have to modify it. Stay tuned for part 2 to see what happens with that. We've ordered a custom tail shaft. So we're gonna be marrying up the ZF 6-speed transmission to the original diff in the EA Falcon. And one of the beautiful things is that the gear ratio in the FG Falcon, which is 2.7, is exactly the same as the gear ratio in the EA. So this should drive with the gear ratios of an FG Falcon. So doing 100, 110 on the freeway, you're at around 1500 revs in 6th gear, which is crazy. Previously, the 3-speed, you're up near 2,500, 3,000 revs. Not good for fuel economy, revving the engine up. We're going to keep the car naturally aspirated for now, so that means no turbo. To go turbo with this thing, we're going to need to upgrade brakes, we're going to need to upgrade the diff. We'll probably have to put a roll cage and go silly with all. Honestly, it'll probably cost, I think, 20 grand plus to do the turbo properly and safely. I'm not interested in doing that now. I just want to get this car running for as cheap as possible. So JZ Drivelines in Somerton, Victoria are helping us out and doing us a custom tail shaft from the ZF to the EA's original diff, which we may later upgrade the diff to like an EB XR6 style diff if this one doesn't like it. My FG just got a 1400 horsepower tail shaft from JZ Drivelines in Somerton, so if you want any performance tail shafts done, these are the go-to guys. They also do trucks and 4x4s and stuff like that too. If you've got a project car and you need a custom tail shaft, link in the description to their website or Facebook page. We also want to run a wideband sensor in the exhaust, which is essentially an air to fuel ratio meter. This will allow us to do our own road tuning without having a dyno. So if you ever watch the dyno run, you see how they put that pipe into the exhaust. That's actually their own wideband sensor, so they can tell how rich or lean the fuel mixture is when they're tuning your car. So if you run the car too lean, there's chances of melting the engine. If you run it too rich, you can lose performance. So this AEM wideband sensor also has an addition on it, which I bought a long time ago. It's just been sitting in a box. It has a little box add-on to it, so it allows the AEM controller to speak to the BF computer via PCM Tech tuning software. So if you're not sure what that is, PCM Tech are a company that makes a software system that allows you to tune your factory Ford Falcon ECU. They also do Mustangs and other various makes and models. Check out their website if you're interested in tuning your own car or you want to know what your tuner uses. This is a very common program. So we've actually unlocked our Territories ECU and we've been playing around with a bit of road tuning. We're still learning as we go, but we're just making little adjustments as we want, monitoring the air to fuel ratio in that car as well. And we've had the car now for 2 years, self-tuned. It's running pretty good, touch wood. Territory actually ran a 13.2 at Heathkit probably about 3 months ago. We did a little bit of ZF gearbox tuning as well, which is cool. Something we're learning a lot about. It's very, very complicated and confusing when you open up the software, but basically this controller box that we have allows us to log our air to fuel ratios within PCM Tech data logger, so that we can go back and have a look and say, hey, when we're accelerating, air to fuel ratio is doing this at certain parts of the run, rather than just physically watching the gauge that's on the dash and not being able to see exactly where it's dipping and spiking. So basically it's just a safety thing for the engine. Another thing we need is a petrol engine loom and ZF adapter for this transmission. So because this engine came out of a straight gas BF Falcon, it does not have an injector rail or fuel injectors. The manifold actually has provisions for the injectors, but they're not drilled. So we went down to pick apart with Thomas and we picked up a full petrol injector manifold, which has the airflow meter and everything on it. And we picked up a BF engine loom for ZF, thinking about possibly upgrading the fuel pump. I'm not sure if the standard one will do it. The car has been running on gas for a long time, so I do have a Walbro 255. I'll see if I can install that. We're also going to need an intake pipe, so something that's going to suit. Thomas said that the AU airbox is going to fit up. So we've picked up an AU airbox from Pick Apart also, which bolts up to the factory chassis. So there's provisions there which are already tapped, and the AU airbox just bolts straight in. I'm guessing those provisions were there for the multi-point setup intake. It's amazing that that just works with an AU airbox. It almost looks like it's meant to be. We had to get an alternator for our motor because the old one was gone. We must have used it. We need to suss out what kind of shifter we're going to use for our ZF. So we can either go with a BMW style shifter, which a lot of guys do because they don't sit up very high. Whereas the Falcon ones, because the Falcon consoles are quite high in the B series and the FG, so BA, BF, FG, consoles are high, so the gear shifters have like quite a big plate underneath them, and in the EA it'll sit up really high. So it's quite common for people to do a BMW shifter because the BMWs actually come with a ZF 6-box gearbox as well. So we still haven't figured out what we're doing there. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. That's roughly what we need for now. There could be more stuff I'm missing. If you think I'm missing anything, let me know in the comments. So the process, we've had to go through and remove the bonnet. Thomas spent a day removing the engine and transmission by himself while I was out at work. He also removed the front half of the gas system. Check out how dirty he got in the process. He had heaps of fun, and he actually just sat the engine into the car, and it's amazing that it actually fits in with the original BF and EA engine mounts combined, pretty much in the perfect location. We also had our roof lining redone by Elite Auto Upholstery in Sunbury. Ryan, what an amazing guy, he's helped us out. So we removed the roof lining ourselves and actually took the glue off. It was all saggy and had pins in it. I didn't really notice how bad it looked until we did a couple of videos on the car and I was vlogging from inside. You can see how bad it looks. So we got that done. If you guys are interested in getting roof linings done, send me a message and I'll make sure he gives you a discount. He can do it for you in-house, or you can take him your skin. He'll cover it and then you can put it back in. He's very, very good value for money and flawless job. You can do it in any finish you want. If you want to go to black, if you want to have it in like a factory style, if you want to change it up. So we put that in with Thomas. Thomas fit up the AU airbox. It's just amazing how it modernizes the car, and it's kind of weird how it just bolts up. I jumped in there and cleaned up the engine bay a bit as it was looking rather dirty. I don't think it had ever been cleaned that deeply before, and I rust prevented in a few areas that were showing a little bit of surface rust, and just gave him a lick of paint with a engine bay enamel that I picked up from Autobahn. Thomas went ahead and fit the Bill Hooton loom to the car. Initially he ran it in a way that wasn't quite going to work, but then we had to rejig things, and we ended up running the three cables that go inside the car through the passenger side grommet. We ran one cable to the electronic throttle control, and we're going to have our OBD port in the glove box. The loom came neatly labeled with plugs going towards the alternator, the thermo fans, and because this loom is set up for turbo, it has the wastegate actuator solenoid and the boost pressure sensor, but we're just going to tuck those away for now and tell the computer that it's naturally aspirated, but it's ready for when we go turbo later on. Thomas spent a fair bit of time making up a custom bracket for the BF pedal to be mounted in the car. It still retains its original mounting points, and the way he's done it, it just feels really good. I can't believe how good he actually welded and made up a bracket. The pedal sits perfectly. Absolutely amazing for just a 16-year-old. Thomas also fit up the ZF transmission that we picked up to the engine, but first he had to swap over the flywheel on the back of the engine because the ZF transmission has a different flywheel which marries up with the ZF torque converter. If you use the wrong torque converter on a ZF gearbox, it'll break the box. He also had to just tweak the transcooler a little bit to make it fit, and he also plugged in the ZF transmission loom so it's ready to slot in the car. Once we got the engine and gearbox in the car, we then measured up all our clearances for the custom tail shaft to be made by JZ Drivelines. Thomas wired up the OBD port, plugged into the laptop, and started calibrating the throttle body and throttle position via Forescan, the software. That's where we're at for now. What we have to do next is calibrate the ECU with the transmission. So at the moment, the computer thinks it's a gas Barra engine. It doesn't know it has a loom on it. We scanned into it and it says that it's using alternative fuel other than petrol. It's amazing. The original exhaust looks like it's going to hook up exactly where it is, even with the bolt points. I haven't tried it yet, but it's so close. We're going to give that a go. I'm hoping it does. We have to figure out the transmission mount, as I said before. Stay tuned for more updates on that. We have to pick up our tail shaft from JZ Drivelines and fit that to the car. We have to figure out the power steering line. So at the moment, they're so close. One of the lines just has to be rotated around. It's got like a bit of an elbow on it. It just needs to be like rotated the other way for it to bolt in. Thomas reckons it's going to bolt in. So factory EA power steering to the Barra motor, just have to rotate one line. I don't know how hard that is. Even the air conditioning compressor looks like it's going to line up One of the hoses is like slightly too short, but we haven't really looked into it that much. We have to drain out the tank of all the fuel. I'm actually want to take the whole tank out of the car, clean out the fuel tank thoroughly, because this car's always run on gas. It's never really run on petrol. Every time I try to run it, it just clogs out. We took the injectors out, put a new fuel filter. Something's going on with the tank, so we're just going to drain the tank, take it out, put some 98 fuel in it. Because another thing I didn't mention before is this engine being a gas Barra, it has a higher compression ratio to a petrol engine, and I think the turbos are even lower compression. So with the right fuel, the car's going to go really well. High compression engines have a bit more life to them. However, detonation in the engine is way more common in a high compression engine, so it's recommended to run a higher octane fuel to minimize this from happening. You can also detune the car a little bit, like pull a bit of timing out of it to prevent this from happening, or run a high octane fuel. So we're going to put 98 fuel into it. Hopefully we can keep a similar tune. We also have to decide on a shifter, get that going and mounted, whether we use a forward one and make a drop box. Apparently it's quite a bit of a task making a proper drop box. We also have to cut out a recession in the bonnet. So the Barra is a little bit of a tall engine, and the webbing underneath the bonnet on the EA will hit because it's quite tall, but you can just cut out a bit of that ribbing to suit, and it'll just clear the rocker cover. I do want to paint the rocker cover. I feel like doing it red would be amazing because you get that red stripe on the EA, it'll suit. But then I was thinking maybe Thomas reckons to do white, the same color as the car. But now I'm kind of thinking I might do the same gray of the bumper bars. I think that'll look cool. And I forgot to mention, if you're still here, Thomas and I are giving away $10,000 credit from one of our viewers who joins up to our G Auto group. Link at the QR code, where we will personally take on your project. If it's beyond our measures and it's like something like an engine build or a paint job, we're going to collaborate with the professionals. We're going to give you guys $10,000 credit with us. It can be used for pretty much anything you want. It's just got to be a Ford or a Holden. Your car will be featured on the channel. We're going to document everything we do for it with the $10,000, whether it's an engine swap, whether it's a paint job, whether it's roadworthy repairs, rust repairs, whatever you guys want. We want to help encourage you guys to finish your projects and get them going, but also show and prove to you guys that things can be done even if you have a carport just like us. Where there's a will, there's a way. So we want to be a great example of people who give it a go and get it done. Yes, it's hard to work on cars, as I've said a million times before. Yes, it's hard to work on cars, but being persistent, being consistent, having good stress management is what's going to get you through and push through. And it's so satisfying once you're done and you're driving on the road. Great quality time with the sun as well. So if you're interested, join our group. 10 grand credit, depends when you're watching this video as well. We're giving it away, I think it's in May 2025. So if you're watching it after this, after then, it's probably gone, but check the QR. There might be another giveaway happening. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for episode 2.